In a grand and prosperous city, there lived a sultan known for his wisdom and fairness. His palace was filled with luxury, his army was strong, and his people were content. But more than anything, he took pride in his son, a young prince who was brave, intelligent, and noble. One day, when the prince came of age, he approached his father and said, "Father, you have taught me how to rule, how to protect our people, and how to negotiate with our neighbors. But there is one more thing in which I seek your wisdom. How do I choose a worthy bride? How can I tell who will bring true happiness and who will be only a fleeting illusion?" The Sultan smiled, and after a moment of thought said, "A good question, my son. Choosing a life partner is one of the most important decisions you will ever make, so I will give you a test. In our city, there are 3 young women, all from honorable families, all raised with respect for tradition, and all renowned for their beauty. But each has a different character. I want you to spend a day with each of them, observe carefully, and draw your own conclusions." The prince bowed and set off on his task. The first young woman was the daughter of a wealthy merchant. Her beauty was legendary. Her dark, honey-colored hair cascaded in soft waves. Her eyes sparkled like stars, and her skin was as delicate as rose petals. She wore luxurious garments woven with golden threads, and her fingers were adorned with precious stones. The prince invited her for a walk in the palace gardens. She moved gracefully beside him, her smile enchanting. But soon he noticed that her attention was fixed on her reflection in the fountain. She constantly adjusted her hair, admired her own face, and marveled at her own beauty. "What a beautiful day," the prince remarked. "Yes, especially when the sun shines so beautifully on my earrings," she replied with a charming smile. Later, at a grand feast, the table was filled with the finest delicacies, yet she only nibbled at the most expensive dishes, turning up her nose at the simpler fare. "She is as beautiful as a rose," the prince thought, "but a rose with thorns which wounds those who come too close." The next day, the prince met the second young woman, the daughter of a respected scholar. She was kind, though not as breathtakingly beautiful. However, her intelligence captivated him from the first words they exchanged. She spoke of the stars and ancient texts, knew countless stories and legends, and her sharp wit and lively mind impressed the prince. As they walked through the marketplace, they discussed the history of their people, laughed, debated, and shared ideas. The prince felt he could never be bored with her. But when they passed an old craftsman selling simple pottery, she scoffed. "How can someone live so poorly? Does he have no pride?" The prince frowned and thought. Later, when they came across peasant children playing in the dust, she turned away with visible distaste. "She is as sharp as a dagger," the prince thought, "but too sharp to warm the heart." On the third day, the prince met the last young woman, who lived in a modest but well-kept home. She greeted him with freshly baked bread and a cup of fragrant tea. Her dress was simple, but her eyes shone with warmth. As they set out for a walk, it began to rain. At the marketplace, some of the stalls started leaking, and elderly vendors scrambled to save their goods. Without hesitation, she ran to help, shielding fabrics and lifting fallen baskets. "Aren't you afraid to ruin your dress?" the prince asked in surprise. "Clothes will dry, but kindness will be remembered," she replied with a smile. Later, she took him to visit her grandmother's home. She gently fluffed the old woman's pillows, served her tea, and listened attentively to her stories. "She is not only kind to me, but to everyone around her," the prince thought. "Her warmth is not for show. It is simply who she is." When the prince returned to the palace, the sultan was waiting for him. "Well, my son, what have you learned?" The first was stunning, but her heart was cold. The second was intelligent, but her sharpness could wound. But the third, she was like a hearth fire, warming, illuminating, and making a house a home. The sultan nodded, pleased. "Then remember this, my son. Beauty fades, and intelligence can be cruel. But a woman who carries warmth and kindness within her will be your greatest strength in all times." And so the prince made his choice, and for the rest of his life, he was happy beside the woman whose heart was like a warm and welcoming home.